we're planning to talk about is actually Layout Manager. But before I just jump straight into Layout Manager, it's probably going to be best to understand what roles are, because those play a huge part of Layout Manager. And in short, each role gets its own layout, right? And every role can see a different layout and see different fields. So before we kind of just jump straight in, we'll take a look at role administration. So what this is it's actually you guys' security roles for Cartograph. Right, as you can kind of skim through here and see, you have a bunch of role names, whether that's departmentalized or however that works. You guys have them set up here, and you guys all belong to at least just one of these roles. Right, a user cannot belong to more than one role; they're stuck to one. I think you guys might have heard Nick say earlier he has an admin thing where he can keep changing his layouts and things like that. But you all are assigned to one security role. We can kind of touch on, we do have a role administration course later, but kind of briefly. Each role has their own security properties, right? So create, update, delete, whether that be for tasks, assets, requests, resources, anything along those lines. Security roles takes a handle on that. What it also does is it applies the layout. So what you guys can actually see and do for them actually handles inside the roles. So before we jump into Layout Manager, I just kind of want to make sure you guys saw this and saw that you guys do have roles that are individualized here. Each one has different security settings, access to different things. And now each layout can actually be assigned to specific roles so everyone sees what they actually need to see.
Can I explain this a little bit more, I think, as far as
how
we do it?
Yeah.
So basically there's a couple different primary functions or levels that we really look at. You know, we have the very bottom, we have, viewer. It basically just says, hey, you guys can see everything, but you can't touch it, you can't hurt anything. You know, you have work, which means you have the ability to modify the work activities, but you know the tasks and stuff like that, but you can't actually modify anything with the users or with the asset level information. So you have users who have the ability that they have everything that work can do, but then they can also modify the asset or the assets for their specific category. We have power user, which then they have a certain select amount of administrative functions. Usually it's like import, exports, or something like that. It's pretty limited. And then you've got admin, and they basically they can break everything. You know, that's basically what it boils down to. So then those are like the basic ranges. So then what we have here is we then have categories here. Predominantly the one that most people are in is tollway. And that basically it's kind of more open, and it basically they have the ability to, when it comes to the assets, it's kind of open where you have the ability to change the asset level information for everything, all of the assets minus bridges. Bridges is the only thing that's locked down because that's the thing that we've worked out with structures and structural group or whatever else. So then we have those guys, and then you have, for the most part, you have a profile, set up for each one of these. Then you have like structures, and then we have like roadway electric and whatever other columns that we kind of find, and then you've got a profile that kind of goes along with each one of these things. Right or wrong or indifferent, that's just basically how we've set it up, a good portion of the time. So each one of these things, so every time we add a new group, it's not just adding in one profile, a lot of times it's adding in, five roles is what he's coming in through here, because you have the different levels, to provide access. So on honesty, I think there's like structures. I don't know if we ever really set up one for viewer or even an admin. I think it's just all your power user or work or something like that. So we don't always have to create all five, but do realize that there's a lot of things that, as we say, oh, well, I want us to look at things very different, and it's like it dominoes into a lot of changes, which is why at first we had a whole surplus of different roles at one point in time, and then we had categories, which then we had 75 roles, which is like impossible to manage. And then that's where it all got crunched into, why are we doing this? Cartograph is a very sleek tool where you can look at all the things that are important to you, and I trust the team, I trust the staff, or anything like that, that you're not going to go mess around and break things that you don't, have any business, toggling into or anything like that. So I know that my facilities guys aren't going to go into my ITS elements and start changing around the ITS elements or whatever like that. They're only going to look at the facilities, but just be aware, you can't, so don't. But that's the categories. I think that just helped. I always wanted to touch on that just a little bit to maybe I might help explain. Whenever you see the things of what he's showing here. So we see things like ITS user, ITS power user, roadway electric power user, structural user, tollway power user, all these things. That's what all of these roles. That's what these title kind of means.
And then with that, you guys have tons of views in your guys' system, right? Tons of layouts. So each asset has their own detail layout. You guys have a task, right? Each task has the detail layout. So each role can technically have its own layout if it wants to. You guys can certainly share layouts and everything like that. But kind of wanted just to break into this just so you guys can kind of see it. I know we'll break down into further tomorrow of actually going into the security settings and showing you guys how that works. But just understand every single sign-in is assigned to a role, and those roles actually divvy out what you guys see and don't see when it comes to Layout Manager. Any questions on roles in general before we jump into Layout Manager?